Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest is President and CAO of High-Tech Pharmaceuticals, Mr. Jared Wheat. Just so you guys know, the High-Tech family of brands includes not only High-Tech, but APS, Innovative, Formutech Nutrition, iForce Nutrition, ALR Industries, LG Sciences, Top Secret Nutrition, Prime Nutrition, Blackstone Labs, Nature's Essentials, Gen 1, AMS, and Sports One. Wow, did I get all that right?
You got it.
Okay. We're here today because, Jared, big news. You guys all know the song, I Fought the Law and the Law Won. Well, in this case, Jared wins. High-Tech wins because DMAA was something that was removed from the supplement industry from sale. And Jared fought very hard and got the right to sell it again. So where to begin? I'm not a chemist, and then most of these people aren't either, Jared, but can you give me a basic idea of what is DMAA?
Yeah, DMAA it was originally studied as a decongestant, much like ephedrine was years ago, which, a lot of people that are mine and your age, Ryan, remember, the ephedrine, caffeine, aspirin stack, if you will, or whatnot that was so popular. And DMAA is in that same family. It was studied in that same time frame and whatnot as ephedrine. It comes from the geranium plant, and it is extracted at a much smaller amount than was ephedrine in Ma Wang, which was the Chinese name for the plant in China. So most of the DMAA that is in the marketplace is synthetic. And at first we argued with the FDA over the legality of, having a synthetic ingredient like that in your product. We won that initial battle because all your vitamin C, nobody is squeezing it out of oranges to put in your multivitamins or your citric acids or things of that nature that are in your sodas or your flavor systems for your proteins or pre-workouts. So what we eventually, the initial win was that we could in fact sell a synthetic, constituent of a botanical, and nobody had ever won that before. So that was kind of like round one, which, opens up to, and one of the things we proved was, if you're going to go after DMAA and say that I shouldn't be able to sell that as a synthetic botanical, then what about ingredients like resveratrol? Resveratrol is very popular for heart health. It comes from wine, but you only get a couple milligrams out of a whole bottle of wine. So if somebody's wanting to put a couple 100 milligrams in their system, then they had to get a synthesized product.
Right. Okay. When did DMAA become an ingredient in pre-workouts? I want to say I heard about this about 10 years ago, and I want to know, were you one of the innovators to bring it to market?
We were probably second or third to bring it to market. We were the first big company to bring it to market, I would say.
Okay.
But we were not the inventor of it. Patrick Arnold was the first guy that kind of, started playing with it. I would say the first company that really popularized it would have been the USP Labs guys with their Jack 3D product. And then we would have had our Mesomorph product, which would have been kind of the first big company. Even though USP Labs became a humongous company in and of themselves, we were the first. They had to build their company first. We were already a fairly large company at that time.
Right. So Mesomorph was the first product that you developed that featured DMAA.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
And we also reformulated our Lipodrine back in 2010 to have DMAA in it. We added that to the formula.
Okay. I mean, we'll get to it later, but how long were these products on the market for before the FDA stepped in and started trying to take them away?
The FDA fired a shot across the whole supplement industry bow in 2013, basically saying that they thought DMAA was not a dietary supplement. They did not have any science on the geranium, it being extracted from geranium. And the one study that was out there, they didn't believe it was sound science. So USP Labs went back and forth with them for about a year. They left us alone, and some of which, when talking to the attorneys at USP Labs, was they said that they knew if they went after Hi-Tech would sue them. Because we had done so when they tried to take Ma Wang off the market. So we're known to stand our ground.
Yeah.
So they didn't come after us for a long time. They didn't come after us till mid-2014. So almost a year and a half later, where everybody else was off the market. And it was only because USA Today and a local Atlanta newspaper picked up the story that, hey, DMAA is still everywhere, you know, and it seems like only one company selling it, being Hi-Tech. So within 48 hours, FDA comes in and does their raid at my warehouse, and the fight began then.
So they never gave you an opportunity to voluntarily recall it and take it off shelves. They just came into your warehouse in Georgia and took it.
Correct.
Okay. Approximately how much product did they seize?
Initially, the 2014 seizure was about $3 million worth of product.
Oh boy. Okay, it's no small amount. Okay, so I'd like to know if you can comment on the accuracy of this statement that the FDA has on its website regarding DMAA. So, to quote the FDA, when DMAA is added to a product marketed as a dietary supplement, the FDA considers it to be an unsafe food additive. The FDA is very concerned about DMAA, and we advise consumers not to purchase or use any product containing DMAA. This substance narrows blood vessels and arteries, which can raise blood pressure and may lead to cardiovascular problems such as shortness of breath, arrhythmias, tightening in the chest, and heart attack, as well as seizures and other neurological and psychological conditions, which is pretty much the same you could say about caffeine in higher doses, if I'm correct.
You are correct. I mean, any stimulant, you know, is going to have some of those side effects if used at too high of a dose. I mean, it's much like anything, you know. I mean, if you have one glass of wine with alcohol with dinner, you're not going to be drunk. But, you know, you drink the whole bottle, then you're liable to have a problem.
Right.
And FDA is still taking the position, because we're still in litigation in the 11th Circuit for the, I'll call it the war. They've won a battle, we've won a battle or two, and the war is waiting on 3 judges in a panel who got the argument 11 months ago that we argued it, to whether it'll be legal throughout America, you know, or not. So FDA is still standing on their guns that even though we've won a battle or two, they're trying to keep other companies from going out there and selling the product.
So to be clear, is it available for sale still, DMAA products, or is it not?
I mean, it's not unlawful for people to sell them. It is, FDA wrote warning letters, and the general public believes a warning letter means it's illegal. Oh. But it has become FDA's practice to write warning letters rather than to go to Congress and ban an ingredient, which is what they did with Ma Wang back, 15 years ago. And basically, I say a lot of times it's like, they say boo, and, everybody gets scared and crawls up under their desk and says, okay, sure, I'll quit. When in fact, sometimes they may be right. And the ingredient that they're saying is not DMAA compliant, is not DMAA compliant. But in this case, they're wrong. And, we took them to task as to, the legality. And, one of the things that prompted this call was we had a second seizure after the first seizure, which the government came in and took $19 million worth of product. And they had to return it the other day, which was 7.5 tractor trailer loads worth of product.
Wow.
A federal judge ruled in our favor.
Wow. So they returned 17, would you say $17 million worth of product to you?
19 million
19 million.
and 7.5 tractor trailer loads
Wow.
full.
Wow. I mean, I hope they took good care of it and didn't like leave it out in the sun or anything.
Well, luckily for us, we were aware of the problems with DMAA sticky, so we were aware of the problems that you can get the product could get hard if not stored in the proper conditions.
Yeah.
So when they did do the seizure, we went to the federal judge and asked that it be stored under certain climate controlled conditions, with humidity being this, temperature being that, and she ordered them to do so.
Nice.
So when we got the product back, it was in good shape, and that's been about 1.5 years ago, and most of our products have 5-year expiration dates, so none of the product has expired, so it's good to sell.
Good job. Good catch on that one. So I'm only quote the FDA one more time here. Their website also has this information. I want to know if this is up to date. In 2013, the FDA seized DMAA containing products from Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals. A federal district court ruled in April 2017 that the products were adulterated and ordered them condemned and forfeited to the United States for destruction. This case is now on appeal before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. So is that up to date, or is that a little behind what's been going on?
No, that is up to date, because that's the war I was talking about.
Okay.
So we won a battle since this. Yeah. They're not going to put our battle win on their website. So once again, we're waiting for the war, which is the seizure that they did in 2013, which was a $3 million seizure I referred to earlier.
Yeah.
The bigger seizure, the $17 million or $19 million seizure, we got back, and this seizure here is in my warehouse under yellow caution tape that we're not to be able to move it. And unfortunately for us, it will have expired when we win, because this case took so long to get through the court systems and get to the appellate courts that, with a 5-year expiration date in 2013, it would have expired a year ago. So most of that product is going to be worthless, but, that's just part of the court system, being so slow.
Could you turn around and sue them for, loss of property or something like that?
Unfortunately, no. The government has immunity to do what they will, and unfortunately, you can't really sue them for things of this nature.
Okay. So, we said you've fought the government before. You've been in court before with them. I want to briefly say, back in 2004, you got a $16 million fine. You paid that. 2014, the FTC and FDA slapped you with a $40 million fine, but you eventually got that overturned, did you not?
We did.
Wow. I mean, how long did that take?
That was about a 2 to 2.5 year ordeal.
Okay. And now this current situation with DMAA, this has been going on since 2014, is that right?
2013, late 2013, October, I think it was, or November of 2013.
Okay. So, you've been through this process before. You know it was going to take years and it was going to cost a lot of money, to get through the court process, the appeals process. Wouldn't it have just been easier to say, you know what, government, that's fine. I won't sell DMAA anymore, and, on to the next one. Why didn't you just do that?
That's what everybody else does.
Oh.
They wrote 10 warning letters. 9 out of 10 capitulated immediately, because you have like 14 days to respond to the warning letters.
Yeah.
The only company that at least gave them any resistance was USP Labs, and they resisted for about a year, and then they capitulated that they would not sell it anymore. And then we sold it from 2013, when all those guys quit, all the way to 2017, So we had basically 4 years where there wasn't another DMAA containing product on the market while all this litigation was going on. Yeah. But the reason we continued to sell it is we knew we were right on it being in geranium. We knew that we were correct in the law. And if you just simply go away on this one, then what happens on the next one, such as, yohimbe bark or, many a product that is on the market that if they took the position, caffeine, that, they wanted to go ban it just simply because FDA says so. It's like New York at one point in time wanted to ban how big a soda could be. At some point in time, you have to stand up for reasonableness and, a lot of times we get grief on fighting the government, but, I've always said that the industry ought to be thankful that we fight, and I wish that the industry would join us and would, kind of, you can do things other than GoFundMe pages. I mean, but there are things in appellate courts where you can have amicus briefs where the industry basically says, no, Hi-Tech's right, and this is why it would hurt the industry. And unfortunately, I've not been able to get people to join me because they kind of leave me out on this island all by myself to fight the war. And, we believe we'll win and have, had to do it all on our own, which is a very, over $5 million worth of legal fee venture that, we have believed that it was worth it to fight. And if we don't win this one, then DMAA, as we know it, will erode, and a lot of ingredients would go down simply by FDA taking this same approach because they could. And they recently have done something they had not even done before. They came out with an advisory page, and they've now basically listed a dozen ingredients that they advise the public are not safe for dietary supplements. And, you have companies discontinuing selling those ingredients simply because, FDA advises on this new web page that they came out with. So that was one of the reasons DMAA came into existence in '94, was to keep FDA from being so heavy-handed, and they're gaining a little bit of momentum on, some of what they have done, and Hi-Tech is trying to stop that momentum so we don't lose our rights to a lot of ingredients that are good for health and muscles,
Yeah, I mean, the body, especially in the bodybuilding world, we want products to work, and most of us are educated enough to understand that if you vastly exceed the dosage of anything, you're going to have negative consequences. Tylenol has more people in the ER than anything else.
Oh, you're exactly right. I mean, more than 500 people a year die from Tylenol exposure, and there's not a single confirmed DMAA death from any of our whole industry. And GNC put out a statement 5 years ago that they had sold approximately 3 billion doses themselves. I know my company has sold somewhere around 1 billion. So when you look at a safety factor of 4 billion doses, and that's a low number because there's other folks that sold the stuff. Right. But if you look at that number, it's really a staggering number to be batting 4 billion and on no deaths or any of that nature. And that just goes to people being able to read a label and not eat a whole bottle of pills and eat 1, 2, or 3, whatever is suggested servings a day. Yeah. And at that type of dosage, I had a epidemiologist who wrote intoxicologist that wrote a expert report for this litigation, and there's more adverse events which are I got the shakes, I got the jitters, not somebody getting hurt, but some just reporting to FDA a side effect. There were less side effects with DMAA than vitamin C or multivitamins.
Wow.
And we all know vitamin C and multivitamins are safe.
Well, yeah, no one's complaining about those. My Fred Flintstone vitamins. But, what I recall from using DMAA, a product that had it, was more energy, more alertness, and sort of like a well-being, almost like a euphoric feeling. Is that what most consumers report?
That is exactly what most consumers report.
Yeah. Now, do you have products on the market, either through the Hi-Tech brand or through any of the other brands, for sale right now that contain DMAA that are being sold?
We're in the process of getting that ready to go back to market to do so.
Okay, so you're waiting for this this appeals process to be completed, correct?
Correct.
So what's the status on that?
My guess is it could be today, it could be a month from now, but it's going to be in the next month. Before we get to Olympia, then, the 15-round fight will be over.
Because, I don't know how long this appeals process takes, but, I don't know if they give you, okay, the next hearing is on this date, the next hearing is on that date, and this is dragged on for years already.
Yeah, no, the way the appellate process works, we wrote an appeal. The government then wrote their why we're wrong. We then got a chance to write why the government's conception of us is wrong. We then went before a 3-judge panel at the 11th Circuit who we argued both sides, and they've had it for 11 months. And usually the outlier, 3 months is the average on coming back with a verdict at the 11th Circuit.
Yeah.
But the outliers are about a year. So if it's a month from now, we'll be right at that outlier where it's kind of the longest that they ever take to come back with a verdict.
So this is what I'm wondering. So because you've had legal battles with the FDA before, I'm wondering, would they be more apt to keep an eye on you and the company and come after you for anything possible, or would they think this guy's a fighter, he's not gonna just lay down and take whatever we tell him to do? Do you think they'd be more or less likely to pursue action against a company that's fought them in court before, as you have?
They're less likely because, once again, when they spoke to the USP Labs lawyers years ago, they didn't send a warning letter to us when they sent it to 12 players, and we would have probably been, the largest of the companies in the DMAA space, only because they knew what our chess move was, which is, we'll sue you. They recently wrote us a warning letter on DMAA, which was a new ingredient that came out after DMAA that is found in walnuts and as well as black tea. They did write us a warning letter, and instead of responding in 14 days like we had, that you normally do in a warning letter situation, we responded with a lawsuit that we sent back to Washington, D.C., and so now we're in another litigation with them over DMHA. My hope is when we win DMAA's 15-round heavyweight battle that, the DMHA will settle and just kind of go away.
Yeah, wow. I just, you talked about how these other supplement companies, they sort of leave you alone in this battle. And I have to think it's just because of the tremendous expense that you're putting out. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to spend millions of dollars, even when they know they're right. But,
and a lot of them, don't have millions of dollars to spend. They aren't large enough to take on the federal government. We're kind of unique in that, we're 100% owned by me. And so therefore, I don't have to get approval from a board of directors. Some of the bigger companies are more risk averse. If you look at, somebody, like that bought Dymatize Post or somebody of that nature, they're not going to go, they're much bigger than me, but they're just not going to go fight over an ingredient. That's not their style. And then if you look at the little guy, he doesn't have the money to stand up and fight them. And I'm kind of in that sweet spot of big enough to fight them, but not too corporate that I have to, be politically correct on every issue. And then I just happen to be one that doesn't like to get run over. And so therefore I tend to stand up for myself.
Yes, you do. So I want to ask you, Jared, to put your mind into the position of your adversary for a minute, the FDA. And I wanted, do you think they have the right motivations at heart? Do you think they really have the consumer's best interests in mind for all these things?
Absolutely not. I mean, they are going after the products that they don't like. They made a statement in a court hearing here a while back where they made a blanket statement that no stimulants are legal. And the first thing that came to my mind, well, what about caffeine? I mean, it's the most consumed stimulant in the world, but, and it comes from nature. I mean, green tea, cola nut, guarana, yerba mate, there's tons of plants that yield caffeine. Most of the caffeine that we use is synthetic, right. But still, the government just doesn't like stimulants, and so they have gone after them pretty much with a vengeance, I would say.
Okay, so here we are, less than 8 weeks out from the Olympia weekend in Las Vegas. Hi-Tech has typically had a very, very strong presence there. You guys going to have a big setup there where hopefully we can see a relaunch of some of these products that we've been talking about this whole time?
Yeah, we plan on doing our normal thing out there in Las Vegas, and look forward to, you guys always do a great job of covering it, and we love, working hand in hand with you guys to bring, the excitement of the Olympia weekend.
Yeah,
exactly.
I have to personally thank you, Jared, because I don't know if everyone's aware of this. They should be by now, but all our contest coverage that we do at Muscular Development, all of it, 100% sponsored by Hi-Tech. So we wouldn't be able to bring you guys Arnold Classic, Olympia, New York Pro, Tampa Pro, Chicago Pro, Toronto Pro, any of these shows. It's all through Hi-Tech and their generosity. And, thank you, Jared, because without going to the shows and we wouldn't have that capability to really keep the sport going the way that I want to keep it going as someone who's been here forever.
You and me both. I mean, I don't train as much as I did back when I was younger, but I mean, that's what got me into this sport was, being an amateur bodybuilder, starting when I was a teenager, and I love the sport and, love you guys at Muscular Development. And, we've had a great partnership for quite some time now to where we do get to bring, these shows and the results to people that ordinarily might not, get to see them.
Yeah, cool.
Or get them covered well like you guys do it. You'd have some half-baked, results of how the show actually went.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, Jared, thank you for your time. I wish you the very best of luck. This appeals process, it's almost over. It's going to be resolved very soon, and hopefully all in your favor, all in Hi-Tech's favor. I happen to think that they go too far, the FDA, many, many times. I think someone at the top thinks they're doing the consumers a favor, but a lot of times they're hurting the consumer who wants effective products to reach their goals. And if used responsibly in the right doses, they are safe and they are effective. And without you lobbying, without you spending all your own money on legal fees, a lot of these products would have just be gone by now completely. But you stand up not only for your company and for your interests, but for the interests of the consumer out there, people like me that use these products. So again, thanks and good luck.
Well, thank you very much, Ron.
All right. Well, everybody, that has been the Ronline Report with Hi-Tech President and CEO Jared Wheat. Thanks for watching. And if you're going to the Olympia, make sure you swing by the Hi-Tech, I don't want to call it a booth because they typically have a good amount of space there. The Hi-Tech booth is going to have all kinds of products, athletes. It's always a good time. I always make my way around there several times during the weekend. So, cool. Look forward to seeing you there, sir.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you.
All right, thanks everybody for watching the Ronline.